What up, everybody? Welcome on in. It's the thewarchant.com recruiting chat. I'm Aslan Hajavandi. Pictured below, and you'll also see him in a much bigger picture here in a little bit, is our recruiting analyst and Rivals.com recruiting analyst, Michael Langston, back from Orlando. Good grief. You did a lot of work down there, so there's lots to talk about. How was Orlando, Michael?
It was fun. The weather was nice. It wasn't as cold, even though it's January, which was crazy. It was pretty muggy down there, but not too bad. Felt good. Weather was fine. A little bit of rain, but a lot of talent. I mean, had a really good time just seeing all this talent in front of you. I mean, just it was just amazed how much talent there was just overall, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun hanging with the kids, hanging with the recruits, their families, getting to know a lot of these guys. Just a great week overall.
Right on, right on. All right, man. Well, without further ado, then, obviously this is for our WarChant subscribers, but also for the folks who are on YouTube. You have free reign in the chat to go ahead and post your questions. We'll get to it. And we'll start with some of those questions here in a minute. But first off, I guess, Michael, the news from the other day, Akeem Dent signing, or at least letting us know that he did sign and sent the paperwork over to Florida State,
Mm,
maybe even a week and a half ago or so.
yeah.
I don't know if I want to use the words surprising, but just, I guess, what was your feeling like when you heard the news from Akeem that he was going to go ahead and get this done early and enroll early?
Well, I mean, we had, I'll start with this. When he checked in on that earlier in the week, when they had to check in with the media, that you were at, he said, "I'm going to surprise some people what happens in January." So a lot of people are feeling it's going to be, oh, you're going to visit, or you could flip somewhere, or go somewhere. But he said January, but a lot of people tried to make it out to be that he was going to flip, but he was just saying people will be surprised the stuff he does. So I kind of put that in the back of my head, and then on Thursday night for the game, Aslan he had told I talked to a few people that around his mom, and they had told that she was glad it was over, and that he was heading to Florida State. So at that point, I started indicating like, yeah, you know what, he might have signed early, and then obviously the next day, he made the post on Twitter that he was signed, he was already signed, and I was told he signed probably around the 20th. That was what I was told. And he had knew about this beforehand, but he wanted to enjoy the week, so he didn't want people to know about this, and he kept it to himself. Going to enroll probably Monday, so I think this is huge news for FSU, not just for Akeem Dent, but also it impacts all the other DBs. I think they all see that guys like Travis Jay that bonds with him, guys like Nick Cross who we saw tear up the U.S. Army bowl game. Guys like that, they see a top guy they already signed there. I think it makes them pushes them want to jump in farther. So I think this is big news for FSU, not just with Akeem, but how it impacts others.
I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I was a little bit nervous. Like, I realized you were telling everybody, like, relax. He's going to eventually be at Florida State. But I just feel like the longer these things play out, if you're a guy like him and Alabama's pursuing you, then you see Alabama win a national championship maybe on Monday. You just start, like biting your nails and getting really nervous. So the fact to
Yeah.
see him get signed and locked in is a huge deal. He's obviously a 5-star. Is there anybody in that secondary that's either signed or verbally committed around at Florida State that you see maybe getting that 5th star? I know that stars don't matter to a lot of people, but for a lot of other people, it does matter. I mean, do you see any of these guys maybe getting that 5th star or joining that sort of upper echelon of DB recruits that are out there?
I think Brendan Gant's just barely going to miss it. He's a defensive back. I think he's going to be really close. Now they might change their mind and say, hey, he's the guy. He might be a 5 star. Now I do think Nick Cross has a really good chance. Like Nick really tore it up this week. We heard a lot of positives from him at the U.S. Army Bowl. We weren't there, but everything I'd heard was very, very positive, and he's a guy that I think could shoot all the way up to a 5 star status. So if somebody has a chance at a 5 star, I think it would be Nick Cross. He would be the guy to watch.
All right, right on. Let's see what some of the folks are saying right now on the chat. I know one of the first questions I actually saw here, Michael, was the young kid from Oak Grove, Mississippi, my old stomping grounds, if you will. Not really. I was in Jackson, which is like 2-3 hours north of there. But John Rouse Plumley. I mean, I know quarterbacks obviously a position that people want to see some sort of solutions brought in on. Maybe not him specifically, but I mean, any guys out there that you think Florida State's building up ground, and do you know anything about Florida State's pursuit of Plumley right now?
Yeah, the Plumlee pursuit, that's the number one target from what I can gather as far as the high school kids. That's the guy they want the most. They've talked with the family. They've talked with the kid a lot. He's going to visit officially FSU February 1st. They're going to get a close deco look. He's very intrigued by the offense in general with FSU. And I think the interest is even going higher now that you have a guy like Kendall Briles in the mix. You have a guy like that. I think he's excited about what he can do and how this offense will be. And I think he also likes the kind of the personality as far as Willie Taggart, the swagger, as you say, that he likes the confidence that he's going to trust his quarterbacks at a lot of stuff. And I think this intrigues John a lot as far as the program. So I think he will come officially visit on February 1st. There's no real leaders. I don't think he'll sign with Georgia, even though he's committed there. I see him going somewhere else. I think Ole Miss is probably the biggest, probably I'd say, threat. LSU's in there, I think, as well. But right now, nothing's going to happen until he starts taking these visits. But the FSU one will be the last. FSU gets the last visit. So certainly big news with that.
All right, right on. Let's see here. What do we got out there? Folks want to know about the DB's coach, but you got to listen to Ira Schofel about that sort of stuff.
You go.
This is the recruiting aspect of the show, folks. Do you think, does Justin Fields transferring to Ohio State, does that affect Plumlee's sort of interest in Georgia, would you think, Michael?
I don't really think so because they haven't really heard much about it. And I think that's something that a lot of people expected anyway, that Justin wouldn't be there. So I don't think it really impacts Plumlee that much since they already have other guys in there. It could. You never know. But I think I just haven't heard a lot about Georgia with Plumlee ever since he's, this thing's broken where he got past the early signing period. So I think that's the thing we're going to watch and see what happens with these visits. But I haven't heard Georgia being a visit destination for him.
Okay. War Chant subscriber Joanne's in the house now. He's even on the YouTube chat.
Man.
He's asking, how's the offensive line recruiting looking specifically at tackles? I know Telfort and Cooper are visiting.
Mm-hmm.
I know Kadeem Telfort. Who's the Cooper guy? Fill me in. I don't even know all this stuff, Michael. Let me know.
I think Josh Cooper is the guy he's referring to. He's big dude. I think he's from New York, around that area. But there's a lot of targets. Jay Wayne, I'm going to get into that. I'll probably work on this week because there's so many guys. I'm probably going to do another hot board offensive line. So we'll get into that because the 25th is going to be a huge weekend. You have probably around 15 to 20 guys coming in. So there's going to be a ton of guys. We have the guys that we've covered already. He mentioned Kadeem Telford, Josh Cooper. You have Kamar Bell from Colquitt County. He's coming in. Now yesterday, new offensive lineman I'm blowing blank with that they offered that's coming in. I think Claiborne, his last name, but I forget his first name. But Cedric Claiborne, that's it. But anyway, you have so many guys that are coming in. So basically, it's going well. They have three signees already in the fold, we know, which is Dante Lucas, who looked exceptional at the U.S. Army Bowl game, Maurice Smith, who's a center, and then the other one is Jay Williams, who's already on campus at FSU, offensive tackle. So they have one tackle. They want to get like 3 or 4 more. So I think you can look at like 6 or 7 guys. But I think it sets up pretty good because they look at the visits. They're getting all these kids in the last 2 weekends, for offensive line. So they're going to have every chance they're going to have a priority to choose between which ones they want. I will get into the details of specifics of all these guys when I do a breakdown on that, because I'm going to do a breakdown on the offensive line with the hot board. But I think they're in good position to land what they want. I think they're going to get their guys between grad transfers and also this class. I think they're going to do well. I think you can probably see 1 or 2 grad transfers in there that FSU will also pull. So I think they're fully addressing this offensive line issue, and I think they'll get 3 or 4 more tackles and have a lot of options to choose from and certainly fill this position in need.
I don't ever like putting tough questions on your plate, Michael, but the subscribers are asking the question, so I have to go ahead and relay it to you.
All good. Don't matter.
This comes from Daryl Smith, another War Chant subscriber. I think he's like Captain D63 maybe on War Chant.
Yeah.
Basically asking defensively, Florida State's tearing things up. when do things turn around on the offensive side? I know that's a really broad question, Michael, but is there a weekend or is there something that's going to happen here where the offensive sort of weapons are going to start falling in line for Florida State?
I would say the 25th to the last 2 weekends. What people have to remember is you had to get your offensive staff in line. You had to get Kendall Browse in there. This period of what they're going to have when the dead period ends on January 10th. So thus, Browse is going to be on the road like crazy with assuming if Clements is here, the offensive line coach with him, I'm sure he's going to be on the road, and then whatever additions they have to the staff. So that's why you have to get all your offensive staff guys in, get all your meetings done, and then get on the road, attack these guys, build a relationship, and then get your visits set up and go from there. But that's why you'll see this start to happen probably right after the dead period. I think you'll start to see more offensive stuff that we talk about, but that's why they, not to be as broad, but it's like this open period is going to really give them a chance to sell and pitch Florida State, but then the real action will begin when they take the official visits on the 25th through the 1st. On that, I think that's when things will really pick up.
Okay. We got another question from a subscriber, Rowdy Knoll. He's from the Bay Area, represent 813-727. I think this is another kind of tough, broad question, but he was asking when the grad transfers, if any, are expected to get on campus. And that's something that I think, Michael, that it depends on when the kid kind of graduates, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got guys like Everett Golson who come in the summer, other guys come in during the spring, right?
Yeah, you have some that are January and some that are in the summer. So I guess it just depends on the kid, and also just depends on the kid. When the kid now, it wouldn't surprise me if one of them happened, like probably over the weekend or early next week. But we'll see if it's gonna happen. It would happen then. But there's a various times for these transfer. I think you touched on good, Aslam. That really depends on when you graduate, and it also just depends on when the kid wants to announce it. I mean, wants to say like, "Hey, I'm going here." These things are hard to follow because they're no longer attributed with that school, so your contacts with that school aren't going to really help you, and then the contacts at FSU side are not going to really tell you much. So it's kind of up to the kid to when he announces it, and it's kind of up to that as far as when it plays out. But certainly, the moment I know, I will definitely make sure everyone else knows. And but that's kind of the time frame there. That's kind of a tough one to answer.
Right on. I'm Aslan. Michael Langston's here as well, recruiting analyst from WarChant.com. If you're not a member of WarChant.com, use the promo code WarChant30. You get 30 free days of access. It's totally risk-free, but you'll probably stay for life because that's what happens. You join, and then you're part of the family, and then you never want to leave. We got a question here from Anthony Dabney. He wants to know, what's up with Lance Legendre? I don't even know how to pronounce the last name, but I think since he's from like the greater Louisiana, he's Louisiana, he's got some of that Creole Cajun in him, so I'm just going to say Legendre. Lance, the quarterback, man, what's up with him from Louisiana?
Plumlee's been the guy that I've heard the most about. I've heard a little bit about Lance. Obviously, there's rumors out there about his grades and academics, so we don't know 100% what the deal is with that. But haven't heard anything about setting the visit up yet. There's not a date yet, so we're waiting to see what date. I think if FSU pushes, he's a guy that I think FSU will get in this class, but that's really it. Is FSU going to push? Is there official visit set up? And the longer the official visit isn't set up, the more obvious it makes me believe that his grade issues are probably going to keep him from FSU being a major player or other teams. So it makes me believe those rumors more the longer this goes on, that there's not official visit set up. So I'm going to check on that hopefully this week and find out more clarity there. But that's kind of where we stand. I know they talk. FSU and him are talking, but so far we do not have an official visit date. So hopefully that changes and we'll see. But that's kind of where things stand with Mr. Lance there.
Right on. I got a question from Sandra Gordon. She's asking, Michael, what's up with that decommit from the Vols? Is that I think that's the linebacker?
Linebacker Lakia Henry. I think it benefits probably not Houston, but Arkansas more than FSU. If I had to hear, because I know he's visited there. He's also visited FSU unofficially, but as I mentioned on our board several times, linebacker Shamond Cooper, who committed to Illinois, who's going to visit FSU officially on the 25th. I think that's the focus for FSU. Not that like he is totally out. He's a guy I think they will talk to as well. But I think if you told me who the priority is, it's going to be Cooper. They want to see what happens there. Now they might have sneak Henry in for an official like on the 18th or something like that. But I think they're only going to take one more linebacker, and I think Cooper is their priority. And the feeling I get is that despite that pledge on the Armour game, I think FSU feels pretty good that they can pull this off and get Cooper, and they feel like when he visits, they're going to pull him in. So, but Henry is definitely one to watch. I really like his film a lot. He's a guy I really like a lot. I think he can do a lot of different things. I don't think you can really go wrong if you picked either Henry or Cooper. I think either one of those guys is certainly a great fit. But right now, Cooper is the priority for FSU.
Another question from YouTube. Morris Benton asks, what's up with George Pickens, Michael? Wide receiver from Hoover, man. What we got on him?
Yeah. Hoover, Alabama.
Piece of cake to go in there and pull those guys away, right?
Yeah, those guys are easy, man. No problem. Now, I had a good time. I was with George a lot this week. Great guy. And by the way, he by far is the best prospect. Not by far, but he, in my opinion, the best prospect on offense that I saw all weekend. He was phenomenal. Can do everything. I think where FSU stands, and it kind of goes to what we talked about, Aslan, about getting on the road with these coaches is he needs to meet the offensive coordinator. And I think that's going to be one of the first visits they do. Kendall Briles, whatever other coaches that go with him, he will go over there to Hoover, Alabama, meet with the family so George can get a feel for him. And I think if George connects and feels comfortable with him, you'll see George set up official visit immediately with FSU. I think George is that high on them. I think George is I hope they just feel comfortable. If he feels comfortable with them, I think he's going to be good to go, and I think he will officially visit them. I think he really likes Taggart. I think he likes what Taggart's doing. I think he wants to feel the same way he felt about Walt because he liked Walt, obviously, with their relationship. So I think if the relationship's there with this guy, I think official visit is almost a certainty. So that's what we're going to wait on as far as that. And then we'll know more once he visits and the feeling. But I know he really likes how he's going to be used as a receiver in that offense.
All right. We went about, I don't know, like 15 minutes. I'm proud of everybody. Without a question on R.J. Henderson. So here we are, Michael. R.J. Henderson obviously has flipped his commitment between several programs during the Under Armour game. He committed to Florida, which came as a bit of a surprise to some folks. Where does Florida State stand with R.J. Henderson right now, Michael?
That one is a wacky one, I think, to say the least. I think a lot of people were expecting, including just certain FSU people, were expecting him to pick FSU. Then I talked to several people that were close to him after he had picked Florida, and they're like, they didn't buy it. They thought it was mainly just to build, have excitement, and that this one's just getting started. The kid's going to take visits. Of course, RJ told me after the game, like, oh, this is not the finish line. This is just really getting started. So it kind of led me to believe, like,
what are we doing? What do you mean the finish? Come on, RJ, figure it out, man.
So he's going to take a bunch of visits. FSU's on the 25th. I think once he gets around these coaches, guys like Browse and the offense, and just the different offensive staff, I just really believe FSU's going to have a good shot at pulling this off. I know FSU's confident about that. Now, what you have to wonder about is FSU going to get where, say FSU gets another target in their receiver target they like. You're only going to take one or two. And what if they say, we're not going to deal with this dude's drama, and they might just move on. That hasn't happened. I haven't heard any inkling of that happening, but that's something to also watch if FSU gets tired of these games and stuff. But I think FSU feels good that they can flip this kid, but it's just a wacky recruitment. And when you've committed 3 times and then you committed again and then you say, I'm going to take visits, and it's just the finish line's not here yet. It's just kind of leads you to believe drama filled, but I think it's going all the way to sign day. That's kind of how I feel it's going to go.
All right, Michael. So I'm I know a little bit of the recruiting. I mean, like a little bit, like kind of like the surface, and then like there's the mantle and like the core, like all of that. If we're talking like geology, I know everybody likes geology metaphors on a Sunday morning or afternoon. But what folks keep posting about. They keep sending out all these prospects names, and some of these guys I've never heard of. So I feel like they're trolling me sometimes. So I don't want to just spit out some random guy's name. But I see people talking about a linebacker, Estante. Is that
Yes,
does it?
yes, Eugene Asante. He's from
Okay.
Virginia,
Okay.
and
What
he's
we got
really
on him?
good. And if you watch him play, he looks like a kid that's on Red Bull all the time, that
Okay.
drinks Red Bull, and that's the way he plays.
We like that.
He is a freakazoid, man. He gets after it. Now he is a guy that I've mentioned that Cooper is a priority, but don't just be surprised if you see him visit on like February 1st, because the FSU staff loves this kid, but at the same time they want to see what happens with Cooper. But this is a kid that if something didn't happen with Cooper or Henry, this is a guy in Asante that the FSU staff definitely would bring in for a visit. But right now, they're kind of trying to see what goes with Cooper and to kind of go from there.
Okay. All right. Let me see
And
here.
I'll also add,
Yeah.
if FSU pushes, there's a very good chance he's going to be a Seminole, from what I've heard. So I think this kid's he will wait till the final weekend if that's what it takes for FSU. So he's a guy certainly to watch if things don't go well with Cooper.
All right. I think his name is Conrad Jones. What up, Conrad? Asking any word on the Moultrie, Georgia kids, Jay Ward, Kamar Bell.
Kamar, they're both coming in on the 25th of January. That's their official visit. They're both really excited about that. They also have a kicker, Ryan Fitzgerald. He's one of the best kickers in the country. I think he's the best, but very good player. I think he will also come in on the 25th for a visit. He's hoping to get his offer. He gets that offer, Fitzgerald will be a no. I think with Kamar Bell and Jay Ward, more so with Bell, I think they definitely want him. He could be a center interior prospect. I think FSU is going to make a hard push. I think Auburn's the slight favorite right now, but like I've told people, Kamar Bell has told me plenty of times that FSU's like the one offer that if he got that offer, that FSU would move to the top spot. So, but Auburn's had a longer relationship, but I think this really changes things with the FSU offer. Now we have to see how the visit goes. And I think if everything clicks, he's going to be a guy that you see in this class. Now with Jay Ward, that's a little more difficult because a lot of his situation might depend on, say, what happens with Nick Cross. If FSU has some issues there, then certainly, yeah, I think FSU is going to jump in there and try to pull Jay Ward. And certainly FSU staff, this staff has coached his brother, Johnny Ward, who played at USF. So there's a family connection there. They like him a lot. They like this staff. They trust him. So I think we'll have to wait and see on that. I just can't see them taking like 8 defensive backs. That's going to be hard for me to see. So I think somebody's going to have to step out for Jay to get in there. But I think, it's good to always give yourselves option in case something does happen. And I think that's why you have Jay in there. And but there's a solid shot. FSU is very interested, or he wouldn't have taken the visit. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens in late January as far as these things and how they span out. But right now, I think we just have to wait and see how the visits go.
All right. I'm Aslan. He's Michael Langston. Follow him on the Twitter machine, Michael Warchant. Michael, another question, obviously, from YouTube as we do our YouTube chat. So these will be sort of semi-regular. We'll probably be doing these on Wednesdays, but not this Wednesday because the number 9 Florida State basketball team will be hosting Miami. They probably won't be number 9 after the Virginia game, but we don't have to talk about all that. But Wednesdays, Michael and I will do these recruiting chats for you. He'll post the nuggets on warchant.com, so the folks who don't want to sit in front of a computer or a tablet or their phone for 45 minutes and watch this, it's okay. He'll post all the nuggets there for your consumption so you can enjoy it. If you're not a member, use the promo code warchant30 to join the family. Question, here we go, from YouTube, Michael. People want to know what's up with Quayshawn Fuller.
Yeah, that's a fun one too. That's a fun one. I think with him, I'll go back to what I've said and told people on our site many times is if he continues to be made a priority, I expect him to be a Seminole. And he was one of the guys that retweeted a King Dent's story about when he signed and he was early. So he's a very pro FSU guy. Problem is he's a very pro whoever's giving him attention guy too. So he gives a lot of attention to Florida, Georgia, Alabama. all these teams. I'm skeptical that he's a take though for Alabama. I'm skeptical they have any room for him, so I'm not really that concerned with them. Maybe Georgia's kind of run out of room, so I don't really. I think Florida's really the main competition there. Um, but again, it comes down to he's going to visit on the 25th, I believe. I have to recheck that. Could be wrong. Could might be the 18th, but I'll recheck that. But it's either 18th or 25th. But he's going to visit that weekend, and so I think if he doesn't shut things down then, he's possibly supposed to take a visit on February 1st to Alabama. But I think you'll get a good sign as far as if he shuts things down, then I think FSU's in good shape to have his signature. But I think it just comes down to FSU being a priority. I think if they want him, they're going to get him, and if they don't, then he's obviously not going to be in this class. But his dream school is FSU. I can't see that being overridden by something else. Now, you might have a situation too where, we've talked about new targets like Jaquaz Sorrells, and also Charles Moore, who really tore it up at the Under Armour. Say FSU lands those two guys. Well, then you have a situation where you might have with Fuller where they say, hold up now, we're not so worried about Fuller. They might ease up on, wanting him in this class. So that's a thing that I'm going to kind of watch for if that was to happen. So I think a lot of it comes down to is Quayshawn Fuller a priority to this staff? And I think we'll know the answers to that, even before he visits and after he visits.
Okay. Next question comes from Royce Thompson asking you, Michael, what is happening with adding another defensive tackle to this class?
Well, we just mentioned the two guys right there in Jaquez Sorrells and Charles Moore. Both of them are very good defensive tackle prospects. Now, with Moore, you can mixture him in with at the end too as a defensive end or a defensive tackle. I think FSU likes him as defensive tackle, but he can play either one because he's long arms and everything. Jaquez is more of a defensive tackle, pure guy. So those are the two guys to lock in on. If you're locking in on prospects and targets, those are the main guys that FSU is going to lock in on. I think I know Moore is visiting on the 25th. Seems like I'm going to say that like all day long we do this chat that, hey, this guy's visiting on the 25th because like it's a big weekend. So I think Sorrells wants to visit on the 25th. It would not surprise me if he scheduled one for the 18th, just the weekend before. But I know that's kind of where the FSU wants him is the 25th. But he's expected to visit. We'll just have to wait and see that visit getting set up. But those are the two guys that they're locked in on that defensive tackle position. They would like to get one more defensive tackle, but I think with either one of them, they're not going to turn those guys in. If both wanted in, they're going to take them.
We're getting a lot of questions about coaches. What do I think about the defensive back coach? Is Ron Dugan's coming home? This is the recruiting chat. If you listen to Wake Up War Chant, though, with myself and Corey Clark tomorrow, I'm sure we'll talk about some of those coaching things. But we're just going to keep it focused on the recruiting chat. We can't give you guys everything away for free on here. I mean, we're talking. I mean, Michael's giving you all the information he's got on recruiting right now. So let's not get too greedy, folks. But yeah, listen to Wake Up War Chain. You can listen to it on YouTube. It gets posted there in the mornings. Corey Clark and myself talking about all things Knowles. A recruiting question that we do have though left over here, Michael, is just this. It's like the moving target that you have to constantly, keep your eye on and pin down. What's the number right now? Do you think in terms of the number of guys they want to have signed when all is said and done with the Tribe 19?
Oh, gosh. We started this thing with 21 to 23, and looks like it's going to be way above that. From what I can gather, I don't have an exact number on that, but I think it's going to be above that just because you have JUCOs and grad transfers and all that stuff involved. You have grad transfers from, 2019, quarterbacks and offensive line. So it's really hard to speculate, not to mention when some of these guys come in, some of them might not count towards this year's class. So that's what you have to also consider. Like the numbers could be up to like 27 or something like that. But the, numbers as far as this class is kind of, we have to figure that out. But so right now I would say it's going to be above 23 based on my pick. He picks going to be high, but I don't have an exact number. I wish I could tell you, but I would say if I had to guess, like FSU would add like 8 or 9 more in this class. As far as finishing off things, I think 8 or 9 guys is kind of what you're looking at possibly.
All right, we're going to start winding things down here in a little bit. It's NFL. It's wild card weekend, folks. I want to watch some NFL football. I know we care about the Knowles, but Daddy's got to go watch something else. Shout out to Rowdy Knoll, Michael. He was asking us what or how have the new coaching hires affected recruiting? So he's trying to get us to talk about the coaching hires under the guise of recruiting. So Rowdy Knoll, I see what you're trying to do. We're not going to do that.
It's like Rowdy. There's nothing we can do until they get on the road.
Right.
So there's no effect until these kids meet these coaches. So until we know everybody, there's no sense in talking about coaches until. So we try to caution people, both from the tribal and recruiting PMB is like, wait for these things to get official, and then we'll address them all. We'll get into all of them.
All right. Michael, this question's been asked a few times. I think I haven't been able to get to it, but it's Lyric Gaddis is the most recent person who's asked this. Basically wants to know, how does the Louisville quarterback transfer, Jordan Travis, fit into the Briles system? I don't know if we know the total marriage of that. I mean, what I can say before you get to that, Michael, is we still don't know whether he's going to be immediately eligible. We know the Bobby Petrino left. Some players have been able to use. Coaches leaving. Shea Patterson was one guy, but there was a whole bunch of other things happening at Ole Miss that allowed him to get instant eligibility at Michigan. Yeah. So we don't even know if he's going to be eligible for 2019 and just how much of his skill set marries to what Kendall Briles wants to do. But I guess just in terms of what you've seen from him on tape and what you've heard from coaches down there, you did a really good write-up on him with Eric Kresser as coach down there, former Gator, but it's all right. Just what are your thoughts initially on Jordan Travis and his commitment to Florida State?
Well, I think the first thing is we're waiting on the waiver to see if he gets that for that year. I think how much FSU pushes for that is really, or how much it matters, I should say, is what they do as far as a grad transfer for a senior. If you don't get, but you want to have that year just so you can, even if you want to redshirt him, you can still redshirt him, and if you have a grad transfer coming in. But Jordan brings a lot of athletic, explosive arm, explosive feet, runs really well. He's got great wheels. He can do everything that Briles looks for in a quarterback. He wants to have a mobile quarterback that can go downfield the ball, and this kid can do a little bit of everything. I think he fits. I think he saw a little bit of that with Louisville, even though it was a tough situation, but very, very, very well-groomed kid that is ready for this moment, as Coach Crestwood pointed out several times. I don't think he's going to there's going to be a massive adjustment. This kid doesn't seem to be bothered by, the competition he has. I think it's really just getting his body right, nutrition, all that stuff as far as getting stronger, just getting accommodated with the FSU system. And I think he's going to be a good fit for FSU. I think he's going to be heavy competition as far as when he's ready. Say he does have that year off, and I think this year is mainly a year for Jordan to get accommodated with FSU, and then go balls to the wall next year. Be the guy that you're going to be looking for that's going to compete for that starting job, because this guy's the real deal. He can do a little bit of everything, and he's the first guy that they have in this system that truly fits everything that Taggart and Briles want to do with this offense. So that's something that people need to remember, and that's why I think that he's going to be a real strong candidate to go for that starting job the following year.
Gotcha. We've mentioned R.J. Henderson, George Pickens, two wide receivers. Ronye Cooper giving us a shout out on YouTube, wanting to know, will there be a wide receiver added to the class? And I guess my question to you then, Michael, is if it's not R.J. Henderson or George Pickens, does Florida State add a wide receiver in the 2019 class if it's not those two guys?
No, there's actually one more. He's at Under Armour. His name is Jonathan Mingo. We broke that news that FSU is going to get a visit from him in February, I believe. February 1st. It could be February 1st or the 25th. I can't keep track. There's so many of these visits the same, but he's a guy that's already mentioned that he's officially visiting FSU, definitely going there. I think it's on the 25th now. Think about it. Very good week at Under Armour. Very big kids, like 6'2", 2.5, 6'3", 205. Really a big kid, but really can move. He moves really well for his size. So he's the guy to watch. He's an Ole Miss commit, but he seems very intrigued. His dad actually works with Cam Akers' dad in Mississippi. So there's a lot of ties there with the two. And you think when he goes over there to get kind of an experience from Cam, I think if he feels it, I think that's a place you could see, FSU pulling a kid like that. And we have to see two things actually. How does this kid feel about Rich Rod as their offense coordinator at Ole Miss? And then also, how does he feel about Browse? So I think the one that he's most comfortable with, I think that'll have a big thing into this. And certainly, Browse is a young guy. He can relate to a lot of guys really well. And I think if FSU knocks out of the park, he's a guy that to seriously keep an eye on as far as FSU making a push in this class. But certainly the fact that this kid's even officially visiting, that tells you his intrigue of the FSU offense and the program. And this might be a kid that wants to get away, but the fact that he's taking this visit this late says a lot about his interest. So watch out for Jonathan Mingo. He's another guy to watch besides the other two that you mentioned.
All right. Joanne's back in the mix asking, how you feel about my Virginia boys? I hope you know these guys. I haven't heard of them, Michael, so hopefully. And I know Joanne ain't trolling me. But he's asking about Antoine Sampa, a linebacker, and then running back Chris Tyree. I would love to see both of them in Tallahassee, says Joanne. What you know about those two guys, Michael?
Well, Joanne, I think FSU would love to have those guys in Tallahassee. I think they have a solid shot for both of them. I think Sampa probably a little bit better. He told us FSU and Clemson's leader, but I've heard like he is extremely tight with Raymond Woody, and I think has a better relationship with the FSU staff than probably the Clemson one at this point. So I would say FSU is the team that I would give the leader edge to. He's going to come back there, take another visit there, and told me he wanted to see a few games. So I think things are trending pretty good direction with Sampa, even though it's Clemson, it's a tight battle there. But and then the Tyree, I think he's pretty wide open as far as the teams. I think he's been to FSU several times, loves FSU, loves what that offense is going to do. Got a great relationship as well with the staff. I think he wants to see just how he feels when he comes over there for either. He told me in the spring he would come over, and then also check him out for an official visit. So I think FSU has a really good shot or solid shot for both of those guys. I think certainly both are possible. I think with Tyree, things are a little more open with more teams in the mix, so there's not a clear cut. It's not like Sampa where Clemson, FSU. I mean, there's nothing like that with Tyree. There's a lot of teams in the mix. You have Mississippi State, Virginia Tech. There's Penn State. There's a lot of teams. So I think that one's a little more open. But I think what FSU's done a good job with is they got him on campus several times. And also this kid really likes how the offense is used in with the type of backs that FSU has. And I think what will help FSU at Tyree is what we see out of Kalen Laybourne this year. Another Virginia kid. I think if you show how he's going to be using that offense, I think that's really going to snatch Tyree in there with FSU and really increase their chances.
We got a question from Brian Moore 601, which I think that means he's from Mississippi. I'll take this one, Michael. He's asking, what does the subscription to warchant.com give us that listening to the podcast does not? I want to become a member if I knew the difference. Well, first off, I don't really do a lot of recruiting. Corey doesn't either. Michael joins us like once every 2 weeks. If you subscribe, you can get all the nuggets from Michael like on a daily, weekly basis. The guy literally drove back and forth between Tallahassee and Orlando like 79 times last week for the Under Armour game. You get that. You get Ira posting inside scoop on coaching hires. There might be a new defensive back coach hire. Ira knows the details on that, but I can't tell you on here because I can't give it to you all for free. Then you get to read Corey's columns. As cool as Corey is on the podcast, he's exponentially cooler in the written word. And then the boards. It's all about the boards. I mean, I feel like we don't play up the boards enough almost sometimes, Mike. Like, I really think it's, even if you don't want to post and you just want to lurk, there's just so much other stuff that you can glean from other people, and then the questions that people ask Ira or Michael, and then they have to answer it, and then you can kind of put some of the dots and connect them, and then you get some more information. So that's the plug for the business. That's what I got on that one. Shane Gibbs joined us late here. Michael, want to know exactly what happened with Henderson. Sorry, joining late. I mean, like you said, it's not over. The finish line is not here yet with R.J. Henderson. He's still a possibility.
Yeah, and he mentioned Florida, Georgia to us at the check-in when we talked to him. So it wasn't like totally shocked, but just most people thought it was going to be FSU the way, he's only set the official visit up for FSU. He hasn't set one up for Florida. Wouldn't surprise me if Florida even know about. That was a surprise. But
Jeez.
with RJ, you never know. But I don't think it was totally out of the blue. I mean, he has interest in Florida. He likes Billy Gonzalez, the receiver coach. He knows what he can do. Obviously, Florida had a really good season. The receivers and team offense looked pretty good. So I don't think that's out of the question. There's more stability as far as what you see on the field so far. So I think that had a lot to do with it. But with RJ, there's a long ways to go. He's going to take visits. So that's all you need to be said. So we'll see.
Shane Gibbs getting greedy, asking more questions. Want to know, is there any smoke around Travis Jay shutting things down? Why are people worried about Travis Jay, Michael? Like, no one should be worried about Travis Jay, right? Like, Travis Jay's coming to Florida State. I know he hasn't signed, but he's coming to Florida State, right?
Well, the smoke that's around Travis Jay is the smoke that I created because I told people the other day that right after the game that Travis told me, I'm leaning towards shutting things down because this weekend really got him comfortable with the Akeem Dent. Obviously, with the Akeem Dent news, that has to have a real positive effect on Travis because Travis got close with him and seemed to be more solid about everything we do with FSU and seemed to less want to take more visits again. So I think certainly, yeah, I'm the one that said that about the smoke. So I would certainly go along with that. That's true. That we could see that happen. I would not be surprised if he shut it down. Obviously, I haven't heard that he's going to yet, but as I told you the other night after the Under Armour game to all the fans, he has hinted that he's leaning that way and that he could decide not to take any more visits besides the FSU one.
Gotcha. All right. We got a question again from Ranye, and I had to I pulled out my phone. By the way, I don't know if you guys can hear the bzz, bzz, but that's like Michael's phone blowing up. Like it's always on the clock. I had to actually Google this kid. Man, Ranye is going to make me go all the way to 2021. We're talking about
Really?
2021 kids? Come on, Ranye. He wants to know about Carlos Del Rio. Apparently, he's a quarterback from McEachern. Is that how you pronounce it? I don't even know how to pronounce it. I would have pronounced it McEachern. There used to be a hockey player that had the same last name like that. But yeah, McEachern.
McEachern.
Yeah, Carlos Del Rio. I mean, 2021, we're going to make poor Michael look that far ahead into the future. Come on,
I know
people.
about him. I mean, Carlos is a really good quarterback. Kind of fits some of the stuff that they do. Certainly a guy they like. I think the top guy they like is Shadir Sanders, Deion's kid. I think he's a guy that's won back-to-back state championships. They feel really comfortable with him. He's the name that I've heard the most. Nothing against Carlos. Carlos is very talented. I like Carlos, but the name I've heard in 2021 is Shadir Sanders. That's Deion Sanders' youngest kid, and if people saw the picture, man, that guy is looks just like a young Deion, but he's a guy that they love. They love Shadir. They think he's the perfect fit for him. I think they have a good shot at pulling him. Obviously, Deion's made it clear he's certainly heavily recruiting for FSU when they need to. Showed that at the Under Armour game. So I see as long as FSU keeps the pressure on, it's hard for me to see that Shadir Sanders isn't their guy in 2021. But Carlos is a guy. Good find by our guy. Forget your name, but good find on Carlos. He's certainly a highly talented guy that FSU is pretty high on.
That's old Ranye. This guy, man, Panther Fan 13 has just been hammering this question. We'll just finally.
Okay.
He wants to know, is DeAndre Francois leaving? Wants to hear our thoughts on it. We did the round table thing with Ira, myself, Corey. Listen, I'm going to take him at his word. He said that he's going to, I guess he's going to put in for the NFL, get an evaluation, see where he is, and then if it's good, he'll go to the pros, and if it's not, he says he plans on coming back to Florida State. I know everybody thinks that that's not the case. I'll just take the kid at his word and think that he is going to be back.
Yeah, nobody knows. I mean, that's the best answer to that. It's like nobody knows, guys. You want civic questions, you want to say, there's no way to know. Have I heard doubts? Yeah, but Aslan's heard it, Gene's heard it, Ira's heard it. But until the kid does anything, nobody really knows for sure. Would I be skeptical of him coming back? Yeah, I don't think he comes back, but that's just gut feeling. That's not on information, and it's just we'll have to wait and see because we really don't know. It's kind of one of those things that we can't really answer, and only DeAndre can answer that.
We got more people asking about coaches. Not going to do it. We're not going to do it, people. C counts 0860. Aslan, ask Michael if he thinks the Florida State can be in the top 5 by signing day?
No, no, this will not be a top 5 class. I can't see that happening unless there's several like big name guys that we haven't heard about that they pull every one of them. I think top 10 is very realistic, and as I pointed out, I gave a state of address several times before we hit this dead period that, or even early signing period, that they need to keep all these DB guys signed. It's looking good in that direction. And then also address their offense line, get a high school quarterback, fill these other spots, get your other linebacker. And I think they're going to do all these things. And I think that will put them in the top 10, if not inside that top 10, maybe 8 or 9. So that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Okay. Man, I feel like I'm a bartender. I'm like, last call for questions. We're wrapping it down, and we just got like inundated with a whole bunch of questions here. Let me see ones that are actually going to have some sort of relevance to what we're talking about here. People asking about linebackers. Maybe which ones are you most impressed with, Michael? Which one do you think has the best chance to get on the field, maybe the earliest out of this linebacking core?
Well, I think the guy that gets on the field the earliest for me, just when I seen, is Jaleel McCray. He's an early enrollee. He's a massive-looking kid, 6'3", 240. He is a massive
You
kid.
did the one-on-one interview with him in Orlando, and I'm like, what? I'm like, this guy was playing defensive back like a little bit ago. I'm like, no wonder he's been telling everybody, stop telling everybody I'm a DB, I'm a linebacker. The boy, he's all linebacker.
Yeah, he's massive, and he moves laterally well. He gets in passing lanes really good, even as a Mike. He causes a lot of problems, I think, and he's getting there in January, which he's probably going to be there tomorrow, Monday. So I think he's the guy. I think Kalen DeLoach is another one that I like a lot. My only thing with Kalen is Kalen gets there in June, so learning everything, getting on the field you have to wait and see. That might take some time. So I was going to pick one that's going to get on the field earliest. I think it would definitely be Jaleel. I'm really there's a lot to be excited about with Jaleel. I like the other kid, Kayvon Glenn. I think he's a very good linebacker. I think. Look at these guys. I mean, you could tell FSU's getting back to the bigger linebackers. All these kids are big. Like, all of them around 220. Obviously, with McCray, he's 240. But, McCray's kind of the guy that I would circle just because I like his game. Kalen had an unbelievable week at Under Armour, especially the game. I think he led most of the linebackers in tackles. So I think there's a lot to be excited about so far with this linebacker crew. But I think McCray is the guy that really caught my eye.
Speaking of Under Armour, we can't forget about Prime and all he did for Florida State out there.
It sure did.
He's the GOAT. The GOAT, man. What's up with Shiloh Sanders? Somebody was asking a question about Shiloh Sanders. I know everyone talks about Shadur, who's the quarterback down the line, but is Shiloh a guy that could maybe end up at Tallahassee?
Yeah, it's just that one's kind of just weird to me just because there's so many guys. I mean, we mentioned, something's going to happen for Jay to get in there. And I think with Jarvis Brownlee now signing in the early signing period with FSU from Carroll City, that gives them like 7 DBs. So it's like, I don't think they can take any more corners. Shiloh, in my opinion, just didn't seem as comfortable or fit in like the other guys there in Under Armour. He had a pretty good game, but I wonder how much they're pushing. I haven't heard a lot about in-home visits with him with FSU, so it makes me wonder how active FSU is there. So I don't know. I mean, we'll have to wait and see if that changes. I'm going to check on that to see if that changes, once the open period starts again. But just based on, I just don't get the same feel that he's a priority compared to the other guys that I've covered, like that read the Under Armour, like Brendan Gant, Raymond Woody, Travis Jay, Akeem Dent. Like, you always saw those guys around the ball. You didn't see a lot of that with Shiloh. I don't know if he's a guy that is to their level.
Okay. Man, this guy is another person who's just been hammering away question after question, but he just keeps asking about this. Can't we just focus on who Florida State is going after as opposed to who they're not going after? But Terondrick Taylor asks, TJ Jones, why no offer? Apparently, according to Terondrick, again, I know some of the guys at Florida State's involved, and I'm at the crust. I don't know the mantle and the core. But apparently, according to Rondrick, this is a kid that had a offer from every other Power 5 school in Florida, but not Florida State. Why? Why, Michael? Tell us.
Well, if
Tell
he has a
us.
Power 5 from Florida, why isn't he committed? Like, he doesn't have a committable offer from Florida, in my opinion. I've heard that he's kind of a backup plan to them. Now, he could end up at Florida, but to me, he hasn't set an official visit with Florida. I don't know how serious Miami is. I haven't heard anything with there. So you have to be careful what you know about, these offers, because not all of them are committable. I think the official visits tell you a lot as far as how serious the team is. TJ is a good receiver, but TJ is not on the level as a George Pickens or RJ Henderson or a Mingo. Like, those guys are just better receivers, in my opinion. I've seen all three of them. I've seen Art. I mean, I've seen TJ, really good receiver, but he doesn't get separation like those other two. So that's the thing you got to consider. I think he's on the outside. He's just a guy that they're still looking at. I think he's one of those guys after Mingo that FSU could make a late run for, but you also have to be careful about, all the Power Fives of offers. It's like, yeah, offers are like Skittles. Yeah, but who really has an offer? That's the really question you got to ask, and you find out that with the official visits. So I think he's a guy we might hear some stuff in February with, but or in January 25th. But right now, I think he's kind of behind those other three that I covered.
Okay. Let's see if we go rapid fire. Just Nick Cross, does he stick with his commitment?
I think he does. I think as long as unless his parents just come in there and say, Nick, we are not signing this letter of intent. I think that's really the only way I can't see him be in this class. He's just too solid to FSU. The way he talks about him kind of reminds me of King Dent. Just, he knows where he wants to go, and I think it's just the only way he doesn't is if his parents come in there and say, we're not signing a letter of intent. And it's like, I can't see that happening, because if that was true, why did they let him commit there in the first place? So that would be hard for me to see, but I think he sticks as of today.
Yeah, the Loxley hire scared me a little bit. I felt
Yeah,
a little bit, a
yeah.
little nervous about that. Man, people keep asking. I try to get out of the way on this one, Michael, but I'll just go ahead. Jalen Hurts,
Yeah.
thoughts, likelihood
I mean,
there's interest there. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, Gene's covered this. I leave this more for Gene. I think there's a shot. It's certainly a great fit. I mean, he would be your biggest addition for any class you get, any recruit you get. But again, your guys are asking about team stuff that has nothing to do with recruiting, and this is more a question for Gene and what he's hearing. But I think there's a shot. Yeah, I do. But how much, I don't know. But Gene will address that on the tribal. So guys, go to the tribal council,
Yes.
tag Gene Williams, say, Gene, what do you think?
.com.
Yeah, .com, whatever, tag Iowa, ask them, hey, what do you think about this? And I'm sure they will answer it more directly than I would, because this is the transfer stuff is more team related than it is recruiting related. So I know people view it as like recruiting to a certain degree, but it's more team related. So go on the tribal, ask Gene.com. He'll nail it for you.
All right, we're going to wrap things up here. Otherwise, Michael would sit here until like 7 o'clock and just talk to you guys. But I'm gonna cut us off here. Michael, just first of all, want to let people know that the replay of this video, if you do want to watch it for whatever reason, if you're late joining, the replay will probably be up in about an hour and a half or so. It takes a while for YouTube to process it, but Michael will have a lot of the nuggets that he shared in this chat available on warchant.com for our subscribers to catch up on, as well as what other stuff are you working on that people should be aware of? What's on your radar going into this week, Michael?
Well, we're hoping to get a chat done next week. We're still working on that. Probably if we have one, it'll be Thursday. We might have some nuggets by then, but it's going to be tough. Don't expect the regular nuggets, because we're still going to be in a dead period until January 10th. So maybe we'll have something by then. But that's kind of what we're shooting for, is to get a chat, kind of discuss things. And I just addressed it at the start of our chat. I'm going to work on an offensive line hot board. No, that's big. So we'll be able to discuss that in detail, and hopefully we can cover some things. And I'm sure people will be firing away on questions, so I don't really need to answer anything else as far as addressing that. But my only comment, I just tell people like I know people are tense because of the season, but they're 15th right now, I believe, in the team rankings for recruiting. So FSU's in a good position going into this open period, and I think they're gonna have a good chance of getting inside that top 10 or at top 10. So I think the staff has done a very good job of keeping stuff together based on just the monstrosity of the season that they've had. I think people lose focus on what they've already done with this class.
For sure. All right, he's Michael Langston. You can follow him on Twitter at Michael Warchant. Also, he runs a show on the premium recruiting board on warchant.com. If you're not a member, use the promo code Warchant30. Gets you 30 free days of access. You can read all the nuggets and have it there whenever you want instead of listening to a 45-minute long webcast. Wake Up Warchant will be recording later today. We'll have it ready for you on Monday morning, myself and Corey Clark. Go ahead. Just go to warchant.com. Everything you need is awaiting you there. For Michael, I'm Aslan. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great week. Go Noles.